Welcome campers to our 2022 Winter Death Valley series. In part 1 of this trip, we're going to try something different in our travel plans. We're going to take our time getting there. First, we will leave our home in the San Diego area. Then we head up to a harvest host in Corona, California. Our next stop is the desert town of Yermo. Then we head up to Baker, California, gateway to Death Valley. And finally, we hit our first destination just east of the national park. By traveling just 100 or so miles each evening, I was able to work my normal job remotely while on the road. We never tire of the beautiful terrain of the San Pasqual Valley. Have you ever seen a road with a name like this? Our first stop was a harvest host named the Corona Heritage Museum. Although we had a bit of difficulty finding the parking in the dark, we settled in nicely. The next day, we toured the museum, which had a lot of interesting exhibits about the local area and culture. This museum and park are located on property that used to be part of the Corona Foothill Lemon Company. This was at one time the largest lemon ranch in all of California. We have stayed at numerous harvest hosts prior to this, but never at a museum, and this was a good experience. We hit the road again the next afternoon. By staying at the harvest host, we could avoid an early checkout time so that I could continue my work during the day. The downside to traveling during the afternoon, of course, is that you will hit more traffic, especially in suburban areas like Southern California. Fortunately, by and large, we were running against the flow of traffic. But as we headed to the Cajon summit, we could tell our luck was going to change. Traffic always seems to get backed up around here these days. As we crested the summit and approached Hemet, I was reminded of another harvest host quite close to here, Oak Hills Brewing. We stayed there last year and had a great time. They had a food truck there serving the biggest hot chicken sandwiches that I've ever seen, and they were delicious. We grabbed gas in Barstow. It gets pretty expensive further up the highway, and there are several big rig-friendly gas stations here. We continued to drive for a short while longer into the moonset. And before long, we arrived at our second destination. Peggy Sue's Diner is a popular 50s-style diner located in Yermo and known for its retro decor, including jukebox, vintage signs, and old-fashioned soda fountains. You can't miss the sign on your way to Vegas. We stopped in for dinner and to check out the decor. It didn't disappoint. Dinner was good, but nothing to write home about. But the staff was friendly and the prices fair. In all fairness, we walked in quite close to closing time. The next morning, Dan got some aerial footage of the surrounding landscape with a drone. As you can see, the parking area is enormous, with plenty of room. We parked away from the restaurant, trying to stay out of the way. Our stay here was fine. There was noise from the freeway, as you would expect, but it was muted and didn't bother us much. It's nice to have this as an option to break up the otherwise long drive. This little building to the left has seen better days for sure. Peggy Sue's Diner first opened in 1954 as the Summit Inn, but it was renamed Peggy Sue's in 1987 after new owners took over and renovated the place to look like a classic American diner. The name Peggy Sue was inspired by the 1957 Buddy Holly song of the same name. This place has been in a number of films and is definitely worth checking out if you're passing by. They have a little park in the back which kids will have a great time in. And cell service was phenomenal. I think the dinosaur exhibit and perhaps the entire place was closed for a while during the peak of COVID-19, but they seemed to be in full operation when we visited in late 2022. We saw some geese hanging out in the park, taking advantage of the warmer climate during the winter. There's a small amphitheater in the back. Not sure what goes on here. During our stay, it was quiet. The next afternoon, we got back on the road. This little fast food place in the middle of nowhere was curious. Maybe next time. There are several interesting sights along the way. Off to the right of us, you see the Mojave National Preserve. Baker's just 60 miles north, and that was our next stop at the Mad Greek Cafe. This gas station to the left has put in a huge number of EV charging stations. I guess they figured out this is about how far you can drive from Los Angeles on one charge. Baker is home to the world's tallest thermometer. For us, the attraction was huge parking area for trucks and RVs. Again, we parked as far away from things as possible and up against a wash. The parking area is also very large, and we could have gone even further back, something I will do when visiting again. We just had to look in front of us to see what the temperature was. The thermometer stands at 134 feet tall and displays the current temperature in Fahrenheit. It was built in 1991 as a tribute to the highest recorded temperature in North America, which was recorded in nearby Death Valley in 1913. Although it's had periods of disrepair, new ownership purchased the thermometer in 2021 and it's been solid ever since. It was pretty chilly that evening. There's not a lot to this town, just a few stores, restaurants, gas stations, and tourist spots. A big tourist attraction is the Alien Jerky Complex. We're going to check that out tomorrow. Looking south, we can see Highway 127, which heads into Death Valley to the right of us. I wonder if this truck is making the lonely drive all the way into Death Valley tonight. We were getting hungry, so it was time to walk over to the restaurant and get something to eat. The Mad Greek is one of our favorite stops when heading up the I-15. They have good food, and its reasonable prices combined with plentiful big rig parking make this a sure bet. Viewing the menu, they have a pretty good selection to choose from. And let's not forget about the pastries. While usually packed during the weekends, this was pretty late on a Thursday night and there were not a lot of patrons. It was a bit chilly for outside dining, but they did a really nice job with the decor. We parked right in front of this old dilapidated trailer. It seems the tongue fell right off of it. Dang decided to walk over to Alien Jerky and see what they had going on. They have a number of souvenirs, clothing, and other knickknacks, as well as a huge collection of hot sauces and, of course, jerky. We got some and it was quite good. You can also meet up with the Star Trek crew here. Cell service here was great and this was a good stop for us. We used the nearby Shell station to dump our tanks and take on some water before heading on to our final stop. The drive north was desolate and beautiful. We noticed the Crowbar Saloon and Cafe in the tiny town of Shoshone. Someday we will have to stop in there and check it out. The next little town is Death Valley Junction. This is a really tiny place whose claim to fame is the Amargosa Opera House and Hotel. We'll be back here in a few days and do a deeper dive. Now we are truly riding off into the sunset. It wasn't too long before we arrived at our destination, and none too early as well. Since we were boondocking, we didn't want to do this in complete darkness. This area is simply known as the Pads, and it hosts a large number of cement pads that are just perfect for parking your RV on. We picked a spot more or less in the middle, and there were very few campers around. Deng put up the drone almost immediately in order to catch some of the remaining light. I've heard a few stories about how these pads got here. The most credible is that they were built by a nearby mining company to provide housing for the workers. As you can see, the views are fantastic, and if visiting during the right time of year, the weather is not bad. Reflecting back on the trip so far, we could have simply driven up over one long day and got here sooner, but by taking our time traveling during the working days, it ended up being a more relaxed pace. Now that we are here, we will be focusing on sharing the unique landscape Death Valley has to offer. We hope you've enjoyed watching this video, as we are delighted to share our alternative approach to RV traveling. It's been a different experience for us. We would love to hear your travel experiences. Please leave us a comment below, and if you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel.